In this video, I'm going to teach you how to build scroll animations just like these. These animations hit the scene hard back in 2019 with Apple's AirPod Pro page, and people just kind of freaked out. But ever since then, agencies have been winning awards and charging clients thousands to pull off this exact effect, because it all used to take a decent knowledge of coding and maybe some 3D skills, until now. I'm going to show you how to do all of this by yourself in an afternoon with Claude and Higgsfield AI. But first, let me show you the most important part of all of this, because this is what almost everyone misses. There's a chance you might have followed these kind of tutorial videos before. You might have even figured out how to get the animation to work properly, but it still didn't look like a $50,000 website or whatever you were sold. That's because the animation alone isn't what makes the Apple sites something we all ooh and ah over. Here's the secret that they've found. Expensive looking websites aren't about doing more. They're about doing less, but better. Apple limits their design system drastically. They've got one typeface for all of the text. Their palette is barely a palette. It's black and some gray, some white with one color accent of blue. And if you want any website that you build to look like it cost more than a few $100, you have got to keep things simple. That's exactly what we're gonna do on this project. We're building a site for a camera called Optic. Headers and bodies are gonna get a neo-grotesque typeface with almost no character, because the type's job here is simplicity, not personality. So I'm using one typeface called Overused Grotesque, which surprisingly, despite the name, is not that overused. Go figure. But I'm also using one fun accent font that has kind of a tech-forward feeling called Departure Mono. And that's a pixel-based mono font. And if you couldn't tell by my slides, I love pixel-based stuff. Would Apple ever use it? No. But I'm not Apple, and we're going to use it tastefully, okay? But now let's talk about spacing, because this is where design actually becomes Apple-like. Apple always leaves breathing room in their design. Nothing feels cramped or accidental. That space is what makes everything feel really intentional. So whatever you're building, just make sure that you strip it down and set it up in the simplest way possible. And this is already looking good without us adding any animation to it. By the way, if you want all the code that I use in this video, the font files, the website template, absolutely everything else that I show you, it's all available to download. The link is in the description. So our design is solid. Now let's animate it. And this is actually way easier than you think. These aren't 3D objects being re-rendered every time that you scroll. It's just a video that's being scrubbed forward and backward based on your scroll position. So think of it like stop motion animation, which means that absolutely anybody can do this, especially with AI. So first we need a video, and my favorite AI video tool is Higgsfield AI. One subscription is going to get you every AI image and video model that there is. They're the sponsor of this video, but I've actually been a big fan of theirs for a while. They've got different kinds of subscription levels that are super accessible, and they're always running specials. If you want to know more or try it out, there's a link in the description. But here's what I found when you're creating AI images and videos. It does great when you don't need anything specific. And pro tip, it's also a lot easier to make a really cool website when you don't have a client asking for real specific things. The moment that your scope gets smaller, the moment that someone needs something really specific, the harder the AI fights you. So what do? You give it examples and you baby step it to the final outcome. Don't just ask for a cool video. Give it the first frame and the last frame. Don't just ask for an image. Give it examples of the image that you want and try to be as specific as possible. If you don't really know what you want or don't need anything specific, then you don't need all that. But I wanted that unibody Mac fill, like it was all milled from one piece of aluminum. So in my references, I gave it examples of what that looked like, and I even gave it a hand-drawn sketch of what I wanted. And listen, I can't draw to save my life. It doesn't need to be good. You just need something, because trying to explain with words something that's visual and specific is actually pretty hard. And I can still say that's true after having done this for my job for over 11 years now. But one key thing is once you get it close, like I got here on this try, that image became my reference image for everything else. Like once I got here, it only took me a few more tries to get what I ended up going with. And now it's time for the exploded shot. Except this time, the model that I was using, which was Nano Banana Pro, got really stubborn. It didn't matter how many times I changed the prompt. It kept kind of handing me the wrong thing, which was this weird extra lens in between the glass lenses. I couldn't get it for the life of me to stop giving me this. That's why I love Higgsfield's draw to edit. Instead of arguing with it in words over and over again, you can just draw on the image. So like I drew some arrows, I marked what moved where and gave it some specific instructions. And eventually it got me to where I wanted to go. And now for the video. And here's where you can lose a whole afternoon. Trust me, I have before. There are like a dozen models on here and they're all kind of good at different things. But what we need is really specific. We just need a clean mechanical motion between our two frames, something that can play forward and backward and look unified. I tested a whole bunch of different models on Higgsfield so that you don't have to. Kling 3.0 was the easy winner for this project. We give it our first frame and our last frame and then give it a real specific prompt and then look at that. So now let's get this puppy on our website and get it animating. But first, there's two resources that are gonna make this way easier. The first up is GSAP. It's a JavaScript library that makes animations like this, and honestly, most animations that you've ever oohed and awed at over the web, way easier. That's what's gonna trigger the video going backward and forward based on the scroll position. But the piece de resistance is a library called Scrollyvideo. Browsers are actually really terrible at scrubbing video. If you try doing this with raw video, it's gonna stutter like crazy. Ask me how I know. But Scrollyvideo gets around this by prepping every frame ahead of time so that whatever frame your scroll needs, it's kind of already sitting there and waiting for you. So let's add the video to my show it site, and then I'm gonna give it a class name so that JavaScript has an easier time connecting to it. And then we gotta do two things. First, we gotta paste the code to make GSAP and Scrollyvideo available in the very top of our page in the header. But then on the bottom of it, the page loaded JavaScript, we add the code to sync it up, to get it to do what we want it to do. And then, bam, it's working beautifully. Now, all these other animations are also GSAP, and all the code and the files for those are included in the download in the description. But once you set this up for yourself, you might notice a slight problem. You can kind of tell where the background color stops and the video starts. And what's going on here is whatever background color you give your video, even if the AI gets it perfect, there's a good chance that it's going to render slightly different than your site's background. And you might not be able to see it, but every monitor grades color differently. So on someone's 5-year-old laptop, it'll show up as a big, ugly rectangle around your camera. Now you could fix this by exporting every single frame in the video to images with a tool like Video to Frames, and then cutting the background out of every single frame one at a time, re-uploading them, and then use your stop motion trick with the images rather than the video. But who's got time for that? A way less time consuming is a CSS fix using a gradient mask. So you fade the edges of the video out so that even if the colors don't match, they're still kind of blending in with the background. So it becomes really imperceivable. The link to the code and everything else that I talked about in this video is in the description. But listen, knowing how to build all this cool stuff only gets you halfway, because here's the thing about clients. They won't remember the website nearly as well as they remember what it was like working with you. If the journey sucked, even a site like this won't get you referred to new clients. In fact, you'll be kind of a one and done web designer. That's why I made this video. It's my exact process from the start of a project to the very end, the same one that lets me charge what I charge. And there's a free Trello template inside. So check that out next. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, if you don't quit, you win.